Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back in the episode number 16 of Unknown to Known, where I bring two gems of service now, Alok Gupta and Rohan Raj. In today's discussion, we are going to be discuss mainly on the BA and BPC, process consulting, solution consulting, issues, challenges, how I can become BA or BPC. We're going to be discuss on that particular part. But as a tradition, before we go live, let's take a 10-second pause, 20-second pause, pray to God to whom you worship, say, give us the power, give us the strength, give us the word, so that what we want to communicate, it should go in the same manner to our audience. And if I want to say something in a good manner, the word selection should be in that direction only. Nobody should be get hurted from my words, my thoughts. Let's pray to God and then finally kick off the session with Alok and Rohan. Okay. Hi Alok, hi Rohan, good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's a
How are you?
set Sunday. Yes, Sunday afternoon. आलोक क्या चल रहा है कैसा है मतलब एक्साइटमेंट है नर्वसनेस है व्हाट यू आर फीलिंग नाउ
I am excited, of course, because this is the first time I'm coming live, so it is always a good opportunity to go live with audience. I have done my YouTube channel already, so I had that experience of taking those videos, but a
okay
live is the first time I'm doing. So yeah, I'm definitely excited. Thank
nice
you, Atul.
रोहन व्हाट डू थिंक सैड हो
I think
नर्वस हो एक्साइटेड हो लोग क्या पूछ सकते हैं व्हाट कैन बी हैपन व्हाट आई कैन बी आस्क्ड टू यू व्हाट योर थॉट्स
I'm excited and nervous, right? So
ओके
balance. There's some kind of balance there. So
Mixed
I'm
feelings.
excited
राइट
about getting on the platform. I'm nervous about what you might ask that I will have to put a lot of thought into. Yeah.
Right. So I request to my audience, please put your comments, your good morning greetings, so that our guests Alok and Rohan get little comfortable with everybody because we are the same community. We are growing together. We are learning together. So nothing to be worried on that particular part, Rohan. Okay. So Alok, let's start from you. I want to be hear from you as a Alok Gupta how you reach on this position, what you're doing currently, in which company. If you're comfortable, you can tell your company name as well. Okay, what you're doing at point of time, little bit to your education background because that is one of the major question I generally ask to my guests on the platform. Go ahead, Alok.
All right, thanks, Atul. So yeah, I think I started my journey in IT industry way back around 17 years from HSBC, and I was more of a application support engineer at that time. Now, in those 17 years career, I've got multiple opportunities in different domains, and that is why it gives me perspective to do things differently as well. So, luckily, I've been into service delivery, and then I had special inclination towards processes, and which is where I became IT consultant after around 7 to 8 years. And in the same journey, when I was implementing processes for a company, I was supposed to implement ServiceNow for the first time. In fact, evaluate the platform first. Is it suitable for us? All those costing, licensing, scalability, configurability, all those use cases. And then because it was the first time we were doing it, so I think I got a good amount of exposure as well as learning. So I think it was good for me, in fact, to take myself to the domain. And since last 8 9 years, I have been to the same domain for a long time now, right? Which means, and I have primarily done the roles of business analysts, business process
Okay.
consultants, BPAs, as well as solution architect, more of a functional level, not purely in the technical space.
Okay.
Engagement manager, QA lead. So all of those roles, because when you are working for a small organization, you might have to wear multiple hats multiple times, right? And
Correct.
currently, fast forward today, currently I'm working as a practice lead for business consulting India in
Okay.
advanced solutions. I joined the company last
Nice.
like eight months back. So I think yeah, a lot of things to explore and do.
Nice. So how was this journey for you? Like coming from the, I can say again, non-technical background as a process consultant, then you say you work as a solution architect for the functional perspective. So how you feel that it is good, it is bad, and I also pick up the word this thing maybe after Rohan's introduction that you pick up the two major words BA and BPC. Generally people interchange these words, they confuse with these words, so we will discuss on that regard. But how are you feeling now that you are happy that at a position you are be dealing it's good, or I should change something, or I should learn more to grow myself?
Because see, learning is always you have to do that, right? I mean, in this industry right now, upskilling is the only thing which you can do, and you have to do it to
Yes.
do good in the market. But I think, from my perspective, luckily I've got enough opportunities in these 8 years, especially in service ecosystem, right, where I could
Hmm.
learn multiple modules and
Okay.
learn from the best people around me, right? So I think it was always a good feeling, in fact. So I am definitely feeling happy about it, excited about it, that I am in the right place right now, and
Okay.
kind of role I'm performing right now also gives me that opportunity to leverage my past skills as well as service skills as well, right? So yeah, it is all
Good.
good, heavy space.
Good. 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 Okay. Coming to you, Rohan. Now, let's see who is Rohan Raj, because I know that we are connected for a long time. Even though I connected with Alok as for a long time now. So, how are you? Where are you working? What's your role? And how you entered in the ServiceNow ecosystem?
Yep. Thank you for that question. So I believe when I was part of TCS, so that was my first job. I started
Hmm.
out as a JD CNC role. Right? It was a JD Edward solution that I was working on, and
Okay.
luckily I was in very good connect with the account manager, and
Hmm.
we used to have a lot of discussions about what should I do at the next step. And
Hmm.
someday he said that ServiceNow is a hot topic in the market. I should look
Okay.
into that area, right?
So
So
when you started your journey in ServiceNow, like in which year?
it's 2019.
Oh, you are recently entered in ServiceNow
Yep.
domain.
Yep.
Nice, nice. Okay, go ahead, Rohan.
Yeah. So so I entered the ServiceNow domain. So I was a administrator and a developer for my first
Hmm.
2 years in TCS, right? So the idea was that I am always intrigued by the word problem solving, and
Hmm.
I did a course from IIT Madras NPTEL for design thinking,
Okay.
right?
Oh,
Then
nice.
I
Okay.
looked. Yes. So, and I also have a great friend. I just emphasize on it. I have a very good network of people that I constantly remain in touch with. So they keep me
Right.
updated about things. So I have a great
Good.
friend who is a designer by profession. So he
Oh,
taught me the
nice.
practical side of it, right?
Okay.
So then I asked my manager if I also could go in front of the client and really listen
Hmm.
to what they are talking about. So it was not client facing, but it was
Hmm.
more about being in the calls. So I was always in
Okay.
the calls that senior people were part of, and then I
Hmm.
listened to what exactly. So there, you also might appreciate that ServiceNow is a platform where you bring some kind of process. Process
True.
already exists, right? And
Right.
we improve it. So I was part of such conversations. So after TCS, I joined Cloud Action, right? So that was in
Hmm.
Pune. So I got the opportunity to work on a vulnerability response implementation. Again, a
Nice.
great
Okay.
implementation. It was a great experience. Then
Hmm.
that's the point when I realized that I want to get into more of a consulting mode
Hmm.
than being a developer. The idea was that I could touch the problem at a higher level rather.
Okay.
That I
Okay.
should be the first one interacting with the customer, understanding their context, understanding their problem, and then
Hmm.
hopefully dealing with the developers and coming up with a solution. So
Okay.
I had a conversation with Akash, who is
Hmm.
the co-founder of Inmorphis. So I
Okay.
told him that I wanted to be part of the company, but I am not looking for a developer role as such. I have
Hmm.
been a developer, but I didn't wanted to be a developer anymore. So,
Okay.
so
Okay.
he suggested me that why don't you go for BPC?
Okay.
At that point in time, I didn't even know BPC role, right?
Hmm.
But after that, it became it really came to me naturally, talking to
Hmm.
people, understanding their problem, being in the problem stage, and
Okay.
yeah, it's been great since then. Yeah,
Good.
that's
Good.
all.
Good. Good. Nice, nice, Rohan. Nice. So now I'm bringing another question here, because you both guys use the different words. Like Alok says BA, BPC, and you put a word called consulting. Okay. So let me come to you, Rohan. Rohan, according to you, who is BA and who is BPC? Are they interchangeable? Are it is a one person or two different person, or there's no word or no term exists of the BPC in this world? Only BA is there. So what your thoughts on that particular part?
Yeah. So I'll start with saying this. See, when we say BA or we say BPC, there
Hmm.
is a clear differentiator of roles and responsibility. So when you
Okay.
say BA, it is more about going into the problem, documenting it, and
Okay.
then passing it over to the next person who might be a consultant, might be a solution architect. They will
Okay.
look at the problem, they will try to solve it. When you say
Okay.
a business process consultant, there is more to the role than documentation. So
Okay.
when let's say Rohan is presented to a customer as a BPC, the
Hmm.
ha- the roles and responsibilities are much bigger. So we have to take care of the processes. We have to make sure the processes stitch together. It's not that I am working on a process and
Hmm.
somehow I just work on that process. No, it has
Okay.
to be interlinked to other processes. So I have to be cognizant of the fact as a BPC that I bring a consulting mindset from a process perspective and not
Okay.
just ServiceNow platform, not just the documentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you pick up a word, or very rightly you put a word called stitching together. So with what particular concept you're stitching your processes? Is it like a tool, people, or the partner, or the product? Which other part you're picking up here?
Okay, so three words again. So it is
Hmm.
more about people, process, and technology. When I say technology, the data also comes into picture, right? For
Correct.
example, let's say I'll just give you an example that I have been dealing with recently. So
Hmm.
when you say vulnerability response, right? So
Right.
vulnerability, what is vulnerability? There is some kind of weakness on some infrastructure device, let's say. So there is a vulnerability which has to be solved. Now, vulnerability response you cannot implement in silo. Even if you are
Right.
the best implementer ever, you know the product very well. Now, why is that? And let me tell you this: most of the
Hmm.
vulnerability response solutions that have failed, the reason is that they are not binded to CMDB. They are not binded
Correct.
to the patching processes, right? So when you implement a solution, you have to be cognizant of the dependencies.
Hmm.
So it's not about change management is not just about change management. It's also
Change.
about
Right.
configuration management on the ITAM devices, right?
Correct.
So anything cannot exist in silos, and ServiceNow is a great example of such, right? So
Such
that's
example
where
of it.
I
Right.
say binding processes. We cannot work
Okay.
in silos. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, Alok, let's
Yeah.
play a rapid fire with you. Okay, let me bring you on the screen now. Rohan, you can take rest. I'll come back to you again. Okay. So now the not a problem statement. The game says that I will give you one alphabet. Okay,
Okay.
and you have to be give me answer in the service now term, except the release name. Otherwise, तो तुम जीत
Mhm.
जाओगे. ठीक है. ठीक है.
Okay.
I'll prefer you can pick up those words from your domain perspective, like we are in the BA or BPC process consulting solution consulting domain.
Mm.
Okay. So my first alphabet starting with a D.
D, Dex, workshop Dex. That
Okay,
is what we
workshop
present
desk.
generally as a BPCs. Yeah.
Okay. E.
Engagement manager, or you
Okay.
can say
Event management भी चल सकता है.
event management. Yeah, event management. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Something with Z.
Z. Z is a
हाँ.
difficult word, man.
नहीं नहीं नहीं. Z is
I'm
the
just thinking.
easiest word. And when we go for the admin training, we always have this Z in the discussion. Let me bring Rohan as well on the screen. You can pass the ball to Rohan. No worries.
Yes, Rohan, please.
The
Can
first
you
thing
repeat
that
that?
Rohan,
came to my mind was zebra, right?
what else you think with a Z?
I
ठीक
can't
है,
come up with.
anybody from audience can give something on the Z. You can put on the chat window or the comment section. I'll give you the answer as well a little later. Okay, Rohan, same game with you. Anything which start with A.
Activity, workflow activity,
Activity. Okay. P
performance analytics, or predictive intelligence,
or PDI.
or a PDI. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. चलिए, we'll take a break now here on this game part, and we'll come to Alok to you. Z, you can say Zing,
Z-
ZING, which we use for the
Search
search.
engine, search engine, search engine.
Yes,
Okay.
global search engine, right? Okay. Alok, so मेरा next question आपसे ये है कि, like, Rohan differentiate about BA and BPC. Okay, according to you, ठीक है, as you say that you work as working as a India BPC lead. what challenges you face, major challenges that a BPC should know in advance so that he or she can reduce the loss or the risk parameters while doing the implementation of that particular part.
Right. So first, sometimes there are a lot of things, right, which are kind of risks which you can identify early in the game. Now, for example, if you are preparing for the workshop pack at that time, if you have not seen statement work clearly, right, and if you understand the platform in that particular module which you're implementing, right, then you should have an understanding in the mind that whatever is written in SOW, do they have, for example, licenses, right? For example, do they
Okay.
have the right people for UAT the right time when we need UAT? And then, are there any other risks associated with that project, particularly any challenges? And
Okay.
even, especially, I'll say, right, one of the most important thing is for a BPC particularly, it is to identify stakeholders. Now, if you
Yes.
have not identified the right stakeholders in the beginning, right, then you might have problems because, and even the way you elicit requirements, right, because there are multiple ways you can do brainstorming, you can take
True.
workshops, you can take prototyping, you can have, uh, there's
Process
also
process reading and all things,
yeah,
right?
exactly. A day in the analyst kind of thing. So, for example, if you're not getting the
Correct.
right inputs, you can actually put yourself into the shoes and see what they do for a particular day. This is called as an observation, right? So, there
Correct.
are other scope of work. So sometimes what is seen is statement work is quite ambiguous sometimes, right? And then you're not very clear about the scope of work. So in that case, it is very important to ask the right set of questions even before the workshop starts, so that you can
Acha,
prepare your workshop
I'll
accordingly.
stop you here. When you say you should ask the right set of questions, ठीक है? क्योंकि this term is very much important for everybody. Like I'm sure that Rohan is also agree and everybody who is listening this part that we should ask the right set of question. What do you mean by the word right set of question and how you define that this question is right or wrong? Shall I ask? Shall I don't ask? Shall I wait to update? What do you think? I'll come to Rohan after this point. Okay.
Okay,
What
so
Alok?
this is for me. Okay. See, because when you have experience, you have done a lot of implementation, right? You gain certain experience and you understand that, for example, if they're asking you to do implement performance analytics, right? And if
Okay.
they do not have ITSM Pro licenses, you can't do that, right? So, for example,
True.
and in the general typical setup, what happens is you have a sales to delivery handover, right? So after signing SOW, sales team gives you a handover to the
Yes.
implementation team where BPCs come to play, right? They are the first point of
Correct.
contact for them. So at that time, when you understand, okay, they expect you to implement certain things, and do they have licenses for that? That is, I mean, one of the primary questions, right? For example,
Right.
and you need to understand whether it is a greenfield implementation or is it something already done, and they are doing something on top of it, right?
Yes.
Similarly, do you have the right set of people in the? For example, if you are doing incident management implementation, then you need to understand: do you have those service desk analyst? Do you have
Okay.
incident process owner? Do you have the right authorities to take decisions at the right time? So
Okay.
these are the questions which you have to understand before starting the game.
ठीक है रोहन मैं I'll come to you now. I'll pick up the point from here. Let's say you guys are sitting on a good experience now. ठीक है 12-15 साल experience. I know Alok for a long time, so he's more than 15-16 experience now. And you also say that at least 5 years you completed in the service now domain. If I'm a fresher, okay, how I should know that what are the right set of question for me? Means because license is very new for me. I can't go and ask, hey, customer, do you have a license or not? Because I'm a fresher, I don't know anything about that. So except licensing part, what do you think that I should ask my customer or I should ask my account manager or my lead that do we have XYZ things on the place so that I am okay to go ahead for the implementation part?
I think I'll just take a step back, right? So I,
Mhm.
since I'm new to the area and uh, not not that many implementations, right? So 10 implementations per implementation at
Mhm.
max. So then I go back to the design thinking approach, right?
Okay.
So we start with understanding the user, number one, right?
Mhm.
And in service now, let's say we are talking about business context, we should understand the user's context, and the user's
Right.
incentive. Let's say, so let's
Okay.
say there is a item manager from the company,
Mhm.
right? So whatever they are asking us to implement, right? They have some certain incentive, right? So the incentive is not just money, but let's say delivering some kind of roadmap that they created last year, right? So
Okay.
first thing is you should understand, how I go about it is I always talk to the user, try to understand their context, try to understand their incentive. Now the incentive will not be very clear, right? So they may or may
Mhm.
not say it, but they you have to understand they also report to someone, and they are
Right.
answerable to someone, so they must have some incentive. Now the second part and rather most important part is what they want to achieve. So let's say
True.
they want to expand the discovery. No, when they
Okay.
say I was sitting in a discussion recently where this term was used, expand
Mm-hmm.
the discovery, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
question arises, what do they mean by expanding the discovery? So
Okay.
you can start with the question. So since we are expanding, there must something already exist. So you understand what is the current scope. What is it that you are discovering? What kind of devices? What data centers? What methods they are using? Are there some
True.
integration? They have some standalone tool. So that is first
Okay.
part. Understand the
Okay.
as is, because there will always be a as is.
As is right.
Yes. The second part is what they want to expand in. Number one
Mm.
can be what type of devices do we want to discover now. Second
Okay.
is there some kind of new data center you want to discover? Do
Okay.
you do you have the technology available? The when you say technology available, now it also counts the licensing. It also counts the
Okay.
reachability of mid server from here to there. Now these are the questions that you can also ask your solution architect. Is it
Okay.
technically feasible for what my client is asking to discover for
Mm-hmm.
current setup to discover? So the solution architect will directly come up with the answers, because now you are very specific. You are asking, is it
Right.
doable? Now doable is the technical term they can answer. So I always go back to the first principles, which is talk to the user, understand the user, their incentives, their context,
Mm-hmm.
what they want to achieve. And
Okay.
I don't even talk about ServiceNow platform till then. So that has helped
True.
me a lot.
Okay. Good. One more point, which I guess Jerry put a question in the session now. Is there any repository of a question bank or the question bank that we can refer to? What do you think,
Right.
Alok? Do you
Yeah.
do,
So I think
because
this is where I wanted to come to that point because I think I thought later on we'll talk about the topic, but I think Jerry, thank you very much for
yes,
bringing that point in the discussion, right? Now, ever see, we had a lot of struggle earlier when we did not have Now Create. Ever since
right,
they have done this Now Create thing, right? So you, in fact, as a BA or a BPC, you have almost everything there. You have the workshop text, you have the starter stories, you have the
right.
implementation insights, you have the process guides. Now, especially for a business process consultant, right? Because I think as somebody said in the call, I think Rohan said mentioned about it that as a BPC, we first need to be expert in that process. We need to understand that process first, right? Forget about technology,
Yes.
forget about service, now forget about everything else. So, for example, you're talking about asset management. Then you need to understand what are the basic objectives of asset management. Why do we do it? What are the benefits out of it? Which are the personas involved? What are their different roles and responsibilities, right? And this is where,
Right.
and then how, and important thing is, how is that particular process interlinked to several other processes? And this is where BPC plays a very important role in defining the value, right? That, for example, if I'm
Right.
doing ITAM, then how it is related to ITOM, ITSM, where all these things will be utilized in the entire ecosystem, right? Because
Right.
discovery, for example, plays a very important role. Even in ITOM, it also brings you the asset data also because these
Yes.
are interrelated things, right? So,
Right.
so whoever is not creating using Now Create, I would strongly urge them because I'm not saying that is the final Bible thing, but what I'm saying it is a good starting point for you guys. So, and then you can tweak further, right? Based on your understanding, based on your own questions, what you've already seen in the process guides. When I said, right, for example, you have taken the process guides already from customer for as a process, right?
Right.
Then you will have all your own questions because of your process understanding, right? So based on
True.
all these things and based on the Now Create standard material, you can always ask the right kind of questions. They have this workshop preparation deck also.
Deck as
Even
well. Right.
before workshop deck, they also have customer workshop preparation deck, where exactly you
Right.
talk about what kind of questions do we ask you to ask for that implementation, right?
True.
So there is a repository, very very well repository.
Right. So let's say if I'm a fresh, not experienced holder like you guys have, can I ask my customer, hey, why you are doing this thing? Is it a valid question?
See, for a business analyst or a BPC, questioning is very important, right? No question is silly question, first of all. Now,
Okay.
unless and until that question is already clarified in one of the documents which they have given to you, then it makes no sense to ask a question again. But
Right.
you must ask questions, to be very honest.
ठीक है.
Without
I'll come.
and why is it very
I'll
important?
Yep. I will add one more point here, and maybe Rohan, I'll take your inputs. It is a well saying, means at least I say in my experience that if you are working as a consultant, I can say when I say consultant, I'm referring to B and BPC both. Okay. If you know, tell to the customer. If you don't know, then confuse the customer. How much you agree on me with this particular part? If you know, tell the customer. If you don't know, then confuse the customer. Do you think that as a BA, as a BPC, we should use this technique sometime? Or you think, no, Atul, it's not a good approach? Maybe Alok is more interested to give the answer, but
Man,
Rohan,
I think
as
let Rowan give the
yes,
answer.
yes. Rohan, what do you think? Then I'll take
I'll
a
be very
question which
honest
put
here.
by Piyush.
Right.
Good, good, good.
Okay. I'll be very honest, like bluntly honest. Right. It
Hmm.
depends on the customer. Let's say
Acha.
if the customer is such that they are not looking for consulting. I'm taking very clear example. You may also appreciate the fact there are some customers who know the problem, who also know the solution. They are
Yes,
themselves the solution architects, right? They do not need your consulting. They are just, it's simply because they partnered with you does not mean they need you, right?
they need
In
you,
that
right?
case, make sure that you do not try the best practices, because they have a perception already. You can try for
Right.
1 or 2 times, but you will realize very soon they do not need your consulting. Now, on the second
Okay.
hand,
Mm-hmm.
when the customer is good, they are
Mm-hmm.
looking for real help, then
Yes.
it's important to build trust. Now, when you're trying to build trust, it is
Mm-hmm.
important to be open when you don't know, right? Then you can come back, because they are looking for help. They are looking for right help.
Right.
And I have this approach where I simply say that I do not know about it as of now. Let me come back to
Mm-hmm.
it, and we can have an open discussion about it. So it depends on
Right.
customer. Yeah.
Right. So it means if I am a BA, my major work is not to give the solution or do the consulting. My main role is that I have to build a trust. I have to build a platform, or maybe I can say build a base so that coming teams should take a benefit of my relationship with the customer and do their work very easily on that particular part. If I lie, maybe other teams also get lie and customer can get little hurted on that particular part. ठीक है. Alok, coming to you on this particular part. If you know, tell to the customer. If you don't know, confuse the customer. How much you agree on this particular part, and have you used this fundamental? Because I personally use sometime, maybe to
Uh,
get some time
to
buying on the
be
things.
very honest, it's not about yeah. So I generally don't use that because, as I said, luckily I have got the customers who were looking for the consulting part, but actually in
Hmm.
problems, right? So, but yeah, there are cases, as Rohan mentioned also, right? That there are some smart customers who already know everything and
Yes.
they just don't need it, right? They have already defined a way. This is how you have to do it, and at that time you have to go up because ultimately you have to serve them. Ultimately, you have to work for
True.
customer, right? So
True.
at that time may not confuse them, but you can keep your mouth shut at certain places where you think, I'm not going to add any value. They already know that, and if I kind of say something else, it might turn things around. So in that case,
Right.
or else you can give them, if you know it better than them, for example, in certain cases, you can give them some
Right.
insights. But again, the decision is theirs, right? So
They're
not
right.
confuse their side, but yeah, try to convince them if there is possibility. If not, then let it be what it is. I mean, but what I generally do is, for example, if I tell an implication to a customer that if you do this, there will be these implications. I get it in return, right?
Okay.
Even if they're not very happy with it, but I say, okay, later on, you should not tell me that my
You
solution is
did.
not manageable or
Yes.
scalable or sustainable, right? So I am just kind of highlighting it as a kind of risk or, so you have that trade lock, risk assumption issues depending. So this is
Right.
where I kind
Right.
of do a good, important.
Right.
Uh,
I'll pick this term now, assumption, because it is well said again in the BA industry. It is well said that BA should not assume anything. Right. So
Absolutely.
what your thought on that particular part? That is my other question came, that shall I ask the customer that why you're doing? Maybe I don't know that they have a license or not. Shall I ask customer that do you have a license? Are you actually at the item or you need something else, but team give you something else on that particular part? So what your thought on the assumption part specifically? And what I can assume by default as out of the box I can say, and what should I ask explicitly to the customer, boss, tell me this thing because this information is required for me to be go ahead. Look, start from you, then we'll come to Rohan.
Okay, so I've heard a very interesting statement there, right? So when
Mhm.
you assume things, you make a ass of you and me both, right? So I generally tell the same thing to my team as well, to people I work with, right? Quite especially in the BA BPC domain, because
Right.
for them assumption is not the right thing to do, to be very honest, right? So
True.
and generally as a human being, because of the experience or because of this situations we have been, we generally tend to assume things, right? So it is, as I said earlier, also it is always important to ask questions,
Correct.
whatever silly it may be. So it is always important to ask questions if you are not very confident about it.
True. What do you think, Rohan, on this particular assumption?
Yeah. I'll just add one more thing here. So I'll
Mhm.
take it more like, let's say you and your friend go to watch a movie, right? And you enter 1 hour late, right?
Okay.
So now your 1 hour movie is already done. Now the
Then
rest you
right.
can watch, right? So it also depends on when you enter the project. So the
Hmm.
project is not that a BA BPC is not introduced at the sales level, at not at the
Right.
advisory level, not at the, let's say, SOW finalization level.
Uh,
You are
right.
introduced to the project at what level plays a very important part, right?
True.
So question we should start by asking. So when did I enter the cinema hall, right?
Mm.
Should I ask my colleagues who are already there in the cinema hall about the movie that happened earlier, right?
Right.
So I can gather all the context from my friends who are already there, right?
Hmm.
Number one. Second is, let's say, you know, we always have questions. Sometimes we are not brave enough to ask. That's all, or we are
Right.
lazy to ask, right?
Right.
So I have seen from my experience that whenever I am lazy, I do not ask questions. So anytime I have questions, right? So I'll be honest about it. It tells that Rohan is already lazy. By the
Right.
5 p.m. in the evening, now he won't ask.
But
So
but
we can ask
one
all questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
but one more thing, that you said that I'm shy to be asked the question. I can understand that, okay, being a human being, everybody has its own nature. Did you face any problem due to this laziness or shyness? कि
Oh,
नहीं
yeah.
मैं नहीं पूछूंगा, I'm just little worried. Customer is very big customer. We have very big deal. So do you face any problem on this particular part?
I think 2 years back, I got into a big problem due to this. So the idea was that I had to gather the requirements. I
Mm-hmm.
and let me add one great proverb that I remember on a daily basis. It is
Mm-hmm.
called "Devil is in the details."
Yes.
So, so I understood the bigger problem, right? I
Uh,
understood the context, but I was a little bit lazy that time probably to get into the details, right? So I did not go into the details. And what happened? The project got delayed because every time the developer asked me that, okay, Rohan, to tell me
yes.
what exactly has to be done here. But the devil is in the details. I didn't ask the details, right? So I had to go back to the customer and get it. So
Right.
I learned my lesson 2 years back. So now it's very important to get into details and remember every day that devil is in the details.
In detail, right, right, right. So in short, we
Exactly.
can say, even though Jerry's also agree on this particular part, that assumptions are like a big enemy for us. Either you kill it, either try to be, don't bring it on the paper. Because even though I have the same experience, sometimes I thought, okay, customer is going to be implement the incident management, and they will have a priority up to 4. But when we start working, it's no, no, we have priority 5 as well. I assume it's 4, but you know that sometimes customers have a P5 as well. And I did not ask the question, and the story has been missed out. Sprint has been burned, and then everything goes wrong on the particular part. Okay, now I'll pick up a question, and thank you, Jerry, for putting your thoughts in the parallel manner as well. Piyush Kumar put a question. Please suggest approach that a process consultant, I and specifically he put the word process consultant, should take a take to the advisory project for the customer. What do you think that if I, even though you already answered, but can you summarize something on this particular part, Rohan? That please suggest approach that a process consultant should take to do a advisory project for a customer. What are the like a prerequisites he's asking? I'm sure.
I'll just give 3 points here, right? So three
Mm-hmm.
points surprising. You have to understand why advisory project is being done. Number one, understand the
Right.
outcome that customer wants to achieve or your company wants to achieve, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
it expanding the project? Is it whatever it is, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the second part is what is as is, because unless you understand as is, what, let's say your company is already working with the client for 1 year, so your company must have delivered something, right? Or
Right.
what was agreed. So whatever as is. So understand the outcome that your company wants to bring. Second, understand
Mm-hmm.
the as is, document it. Third, then look at the process that how it can be made better. But to do that, you have to talk to the on ground people. I did a mistake one time. I did not talk to the on ground people because people
Mm-hmm.
are using that process already. You are
Correct.
not brought into picture to imagine a process which could be greater or better than this.
Better
Rather,
than this,
there are
right?
already some kind of pain that on ground people are facing with the process. So
Mm-hmm.
talk to the on ground people alternate day at least, and then
Right.
write down the problem, then come up with the solution. I have done a mistake one time where I, in my own imagination, thought that
Mm-hmm.
okay, this process has these gaps. Let me put a advisory slide saying let's improve this.
Improve this.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then the customer SVP or any higher level will ask you where the data supporting it. You don't
Oh,
have
okay.
data supporting it,
Did
right?
facts and
So,
figures should be there, right?
yes. Who did you
And I
talk
would
to?
like to, yeah, I
Sure,
think
go,
there is a
go ahead,
very,
Alok.
very important point, right? Because see, because as I said, I have been even an IT consultant in the background in the past, right? So that experience has given me that understanding, right? For example, as you said, see, what and why are two very important things for a BA and BPC. How
True.
part is for solutioning team, they'll do that, right? So
Right.
you, the most important thing to understand is why. Why are we doing this in the first place? And
True.
as you said, what are the objectives of it? But at the same time, when you do as is versus to be analysis, you need to present the story in terms of customer that this is, for example, you can create a cross-functional diagram, right? And as Rohan mentioned, that you can talk to the people on the ground because what happens generally is see people know where to fix things, right? It is not that not everybody knows it. It is more about the fact that they have got some resistance because of that. So what I did in my past experience was wherever I was facing resistance, I talked to those people one on one, right? And I
Okay.
understood why are we not willing to do this. I mean, what is the problem in the background,
Problem
right?
statement there, right? Okay.
Once they gave me that reason of that resistance, that is where I could figure out my solution better in terms of that how it can help you to do that part, right? Because it's very
Right.
important, right? So as a BPC, as I said, the first focus is on process and second focus is on service now. How will service now
True.
do that process better for you? But
True.
unless and until you understand where the gap in the process today, and as Rohan mentioned, that data has to be supporting. We cannot assume things that the gap is here, right? You talk to people, you get data, and then you establish that fact that it is why we have the problem, and talk to the other people who have been involved in the process already to understand
True.
why have we not able to do that. This will give you the perspective that okay, where do we need to improve in reality? Because people might have thought about this already, right? It is not that you're
Yes.
thinking of the first time. So just understand what went wrong at that time and do not try to repeat the same problem again. And talk to
Right.
people. Right? Communication is the key, I guess. I think this is where I have
No,
seen very important thing, right?
that's true. I was watching the this thing trailer of this movie Shrikant Bola. I am sure that everybody know that he's the youngest person who has a good enterprise and he's virtually not fit. So he put a court case, and in that court case he put a justification that everybody see that apple was falling from the tree, but only I still see that why it is falling. It means everybody know that what is the problem statement, but only I still see the other part that why it is be happening like this. And I guess this
Exactly.
is what we as a BA, as a BPC, as a consultant need to be say that why it is be problem statement here. Good.
Absolutely.
But one more point I would like to be hear from you. Do you think that as a BA, as a BPC, I must have a technical knowledge? If you say technical, up to what extent you add in the technical? Because
Right.
when I say technical means people say, "Are technical?" And then how you can be BA? How you can be BPC? Technical means developer or the architect level pay. Okay, so what are your thoughts on that particular part? And after that, I'll come to Rohan on this question.
Yeah, so there is this misconception that BAs or BPCs have to be only functional. See, functional part is okay, right? But especially when you see, okay, when I say a generic business analyst, fair enough, you may not need technology, fair enough, right? But when you call yourself a service now business analyst or a service now business process consultant, that is where you need to understand the platform also, right? Without
Right.
understanding the platform, it will be difficult. Now,
अच्छा
when I
ठीक है.
say
Sorry, just one. When you say understand the platform, what do you mean by the word understand the platform? Because
exactly,
platform is very big
that is what
here.
I'm telling you, right? So, okay, there are two parts to it. One is the Now platform, as it whatever we study in Now Create, or sorry, not Now Create, in Now Learning, the basic course of Now platform. That is the necessity. I mean, you have to know that there is no second thought to it. But whatever
Right.
module or process you're implementing it, right? How that process works in Service Now, as I said, you can get it from process guide. That is point number one. Point number two, you can access
Right.
it in PDI also. Point number three, all those fields and screens in different stages. For example, if I'm implementing problem management, right? What are the fields required in the first stage, second stage, third stage, and what do they actually signify? Why do we
Okay.
need those fields, right? So you need to understand that to that level that all forms and fields you should know, and you should also know the fact that does it require. I mean, again, it is not mandatory. It is kind of optional where you can say that I need to know whether it requires a business rule or a client script or a UI policy to do that, right? So you
Yes.
should at
It's
least know
right.
that basic stuff. I'm not saying that go and do the coding itself, but the best practice, right? For example, if
Right.
I were to drive assignment group of an incident, then what should I use? Should I use the category subcategory or should I use the CI data? The best
CI
practice
data
is to
and
use CI data, for example, right? So you have a CI
right.
data, then CSD.
Okay.
So that is what
Good.
is important.
Good. And Rohan, come to you. You pick up a a word very lot of timings. Expanding. I can say you say that customer want to be expand. Okay, and I'll putting two more words is called the transformation. What you as a BA think that what is expanding means, or what is transformation means, or what is, I can say, digital transformation? Because if you say in the market, if you see, hey, we are doing the expanding our business, we are doing the digital transformation. So what I have to be understand, or I need to be understand from the my perspective as a BA, that what is the expanding or the digital transformation mean?
Yeah, and that's a very, very good question, to be honest. And I'd like to take 2 minutes to just think.
Sure, good, good.
Okay. So let me start with this. So when we say we say, you must have heard it a lot. ServiceNow is the platform of platform, right? So there are
Right.
so many things on the platform. Now let's take a step back, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
look at the enterprise or IT organization in its bare structure. So
Mm-hmm.
there would be some 20, 30 departments, some
Right.
50, 60 processes
Right.
underlying those departments, right? And what ServiceNow has been able to do is that it has a product suite for its own department. So HR department would have HRSD, right?
Right.
The infra monitoring people would have ITOM, would have ITAM,
Right.
and so on and so forth, right? So every department that your organization has a
Mm-hmm.
product suite corresponding to them, right?
Okay.
Now this is the service now context. Now let's
Mm-hmm.
move to the organizational context, where I have been part of multiple transformation roadmaps. So
Right.
when a transformation roadmap is drawn out by a consulting company, right? So it can be McKinsey, it can be
Right.
BCG, or
BGC,
whatever,
right?
right?
BCG, right, right.
Yes. So it can be any company. Now
Mm-hmm.
the question is, when they build or draw that roadmap, they do not
Mm-hmm.
consider ServiceNow. They are not looking at ServiceNow as a technology or as a platform. They are
Right.
looking at the organization, how I can make this organization better. Now that
Mm-hmm.
plan has a corresponding plan for each department. Now
Okay.
we are in a very lucky state right now
Mm-hmm.
that whenever an organizational transformation roadmap is drawn out, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of processes fall onto ServiceNow. Even
True.
I'll tell you, to the extent that 70% of a transformation roadmap that you would see from McKinsey or anyone else, you would be able to map it to ServiceNow
Service now
functionality,
domain. Yes.
ServiceNow
Correct.
modules,
Correct.
right? So we are in a very golden period where there is a
Mm-hmm.
platform which can drive organizational transformation to a degree like 70%, 75%, right? So when we talk about transformation, when we talk about expanding, we have to understand why that
Mm-hmm.
transformation, why that expansion has to happen. Who is driving it? Right? Is
Mm-hmm.
it the MD's office that is driving it? Who are the people who are going to implement it? If let's say there is a bucket of infra people, so infra people have some 20 processes that they have to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll come back. I'll just do my study on ServiceNow platform. What are the processes already there? Let's say incident management or
Right.
alert management is there.
Mm-hmm.
ITOM is there. Then I can map everything to everything, right? So that's how transformation game nowadays plays out in ServiceNow. And from a personal experience, I can tell you this is a
Okay.
golden time to be a consultant in ServiceNow domain, because you
Mm-hmm.
get to touch a lot of high value things. So
Right.
HRD, anything, any transformation.
Multiple domains are there, and we can part in these domains, right?
Yep.
Okay. Good insight. Alok, I have another question for you. Okay. Because you pick up this word called the value, right? Let me bring you on the screen quickly. Okay. ITL force says it's not only value, it's a co-creation of the value as well, right?
Yeah.
And I, as a BA, how I can create a, or how I can do the co-creation of the value. Value to bani rahi hai. You are using service now, you are getting a value. But as a BA, how I can do the co-creation of the value so that customer should think that yes, he's a right consultant for me and he's guiding me in the right direction. What are your thoughts on that particular
Right.
point?
So, I mean, before Idle 4 came to picture, right, the
Mm-hmm.
general mindset was the partners or the vendors, they were kind of doing what customers expected them to do, right? Which means
Mm-hmm.
you were not actually co-creating it. You were actually taking the input from them completely and doing it what they expected, right? So when
Okay.
you do the co-creation part, you also give an insights. Also
Okay.
give an advisory. You also give a consulting that this is how I think we can do that, because when multiple parties coexist, right? Then there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders in the game. As Rohan mentioned, one
Yes.
of the cases where you also need to know that what your company expects from this project, what customer
Right.
expects from this project, right? Both the aspects are important, right? Do they want to
True.
renew something, or do they want to continue, or something of so? And then there are, and then you have the concept of ROI calculator, value calculator. So
Right.
when you go to now create, there is a concept of customer success, right? So when you go
Yes.
to customer success, you can see there are a lot of templates, there are a lot of calculators which can tell you how many man hours did you save, how many dollars did
Right.
you save, right? So
I guess
all of that.
you're referring to the Forrester calculator, right? Where you can put the data that how many records you create and then it gives a value to
Yeah,
you.
so it kind of
Right.
tells you which module you're using, how many records, how many
Yes.
users, and then it kind of gives you value. So value is not only defined in terms of the monetary value, it can be
Mm-hmm.
user experience, right?
Okay.
You can also be more adherent to compliance process. For example, SAM, software asset
True.
management or hardware asset
True.
management. This is where compliance comes to play. At GRC, governance and
Yes.
compliance itself, right? It is more for compliance perspective. So value
Mm-hmm.
is always driven from that perspective of customer that they want to achieve something. Were you able to deliver those business outcomes, not outputs? This is where I
Okay.
think so, and this is where I always say, right, especially for a BA or a BPC,
Mm-hmm.
uh, knowing ITL is important because when you
Right.
read through those different processes, understand the whole terminology that what is value creation, what are those different ecosystems: design, build, deploy, plan, and
Mm-hmm.
everything, right? So the value service, you call it as
Service
service
value
value
chain. Chain,
SVC,
right.
right? Value chain,
SPC,
right?
right, right.
So when you understand the whole perspective of it, you are able to join the dots because you will now
Correct.
know that what an executive is looking for. You will
Mm-hmm.
now know what the person who is sponsoring that project is looking for,
Looking for
what the
right.
person who is in the ground working on that process, for example, the incident analyst or asset manager is looking for,
Right.
right? What is it that your company is looking for, and what is it that you are looking for as well? So it is kind of giving you a full picture of everybody that what is in it for me. So I think I
True.
always tell this to people that, especially in this role, you
Mm-hmm.
always have to put yourself in customer shoes. Think from their
Correct.
understanding, right? Because what happens
Understanding
is,
perspective.
generally I've seen is, people say, no, no, this is not possible, or we cannot do that. Why do you want to do that? So,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't appreciate that. Why? Because you have not been into that role ever in your life in the past.
Ever right.
And
Right.
this is
True.
where, as I said, it gives me an edge sometimes because, as I said, I have been an IT consultant as well as I have
Mm-hmm.
been into multiple operational roles. So, for example,
Right.
MIM, change manager, asset manager. I've done those roles. So this kind
Okay.
of gives me a perspective that why is an asset manager looking for this kind of solution? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
ServiceNow is able to provide it out of the box, not able to provide it. You can kind of do a customization there. But again,
Right.
you need to know that this is an important thing for an end user,
Correct.
and all of this value gets reflected in reports and dashboards. So I think all I say, I mean, and this is very important when I say to people,
Mm-hmm.
right? That especially when you implement a project,
Mm-hmm.
the reporting dashboards, it is not talked about so much frequently, and it is generally talked about in the end.
Yes.
But if
And right.
you do not think about during design phase, you will not
Mm-hmm.
be able to achieve those objectives which are coming from reports. So reports and dashboards are those things which is mirror, right? So when an executive
Correct.
looks at it or a manager, this is where they'll understand that did I actually achieve that value which I wanted to look out for, right? So
Correct.
this is why you have to begin with an end in mind. When you start for reporting dashboard, it is always said to begin with an end in mind. So you should know that what are the kind of KPIs I want to monitor eventually to establish the fact that by doing this particular implementation, we have actually transformed few things for us,
True.
right? This is
Right.
important.
Agree on this part. And also, I'll add here that in the business analyst part, like I read a book, B. This is BA Bob. In that, it is mentioned that our stakeholder are the different type of animals. Like someone is like a lion, someone is rabbit, someone is like an eagle. So they every kind of animal or the bird have its own nature. Like eagle is always for the long vision. So I think when we are working as a consultant, we have to have on the same place that I need to be not think to be just immediate solution, need to be think for the coming year solution, at least 5 7 years solution. We have to be think. Okay, good. Now I'll again take a rapid fire question, rapid fire now. Okay, Rohan, I'll start from you. ठीक है, and Alok, you can help. Anything which start with W.
Workflow.
Very nice. Alok, anything which start with W.
Workshops,
Okay, nice. Okay. Anything with the V, Rohan. V.
V, V
V,
as in
V,
van,
V. V, yes, V is pen.
Velocity.
कहाँ
Change velocity. I can only think of.
हाँ कह
velocity
सकते
is
हैं.
one thing.
What else?
Value,
What else
value,
will
value, value, value. We just talked about
value?
value, right?
Yes,
Oh,
value. Right. Okay. Something with. Why?
Why?
Yes.
Wow.
Be- because we talk about the pre-sales sales team as well, and they put this word in their graphs, in their PPTs. So I want to be hear that
Not able to call it up.
year to year
Yeah,
growth.
why you saying
Why?
why why?
Yes. Okay. Let's take something with you, Alok, with the U.
UI policies?
Oh, very easy. UI builder as well. You can pick it up. Okay, good. Shake. Actually, we are restricting to use the release name. Otherwise, these guys will win this game, which I don't want to be want. Okay. चलिए ठीक है. Now we have only 10 minutes in our bucket. Coming to you, uh, Rohan. ठीक है. I want to hear your experience that where you get fail due to some mistakes you did in the consulting, and what are those failures or the lesson learned for you on that particular part. Maybe one example where you can put it and you can tell.
Yeah.
And it's not an interview, so you have to give a lot of explanation. But I want to be here that हाँ अतुल ऐसा हुआ और मुझे बाद में बहुत दुख भी हुआ कि मुझे पता था but मैंने ignore किया. Again, assumptions, I took assumptions and it backfired me on that particular part. So what do you think? What is the experience
I
you have?
Yeah,
What please?
I have a very clear recollection of this experience, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is more about buckling to the pressure of the client and
Okay.
not thinking in a long term view. So
Mm-hmm.
a year or half ago, I was working with a client, and their ask was to create certain dashboard
Mm-hmm.
that they had created in their past companies, let's say, right?
Okay.
So they had some vision that they wanted on top of ServiceNow. Now, at that time, I also knew that ServiceNow is not the greatest tool from a
Mm-hmm.
reporting perspective.
Right.
Power BI is there, W is there, so on and so forth, right? So this customer, the lead of this customer, had built something in their past organization and wanted to build the exact replica on ServiceNow, right? So since the experience was already not that great because there was a lot of friction and all, I buckled to the pressure that this client put on me, and then
Okay.
I went into the solutioning part, right? So I
Acha.
asked my developer and architect to
Okay.
just help with the solution. Now
Hmm.
see, the biggest mistake that I did was take customers vision as the solution, right? Whatever
Oh.
they are showing me that this is what I built in my past organization, built the exact thing
Okay.
here. And it was terrible. So why it was terrible?
Hmm.
So the development almost like entirety, one man completely fixed on the development for 6 7 months or more. Number one.
Okay.
Second,
Okay.
it didn't work out. Why it didn't work
Hmm.
out is because they wanted a lot of calculations to be done on the screen before the numbers show
Hmm.
up, and those
Okay.
calculations had to be real time, right?
Okay.
So what happens when that happens, right?
It's
So the
right.
page will take a year to
Time
load.
to be loaded. Yes.
Yes. So those things happened. We suggested him not to do it, but that was already
Hmm.
we were in that, right. So it was already too late. Then what happened after the project ended? Nobody
Hmm.
talked about that dashboard, right? That dashboard was not shown to anyone.
Okay.
7 8 months we did a lot of, I did the wireframing, one page,
Okay.
layer down, layer 3, layer 4, and
Okay.
after almost 7 8 months, the senior of this guy asked me directly to shut down this project,
Oh.
right, because it brought a lot of embarrassment.
Hmm.
So that's a failure that I would learn from a lot, in
Okay.
not to take customers advice as the solution,
As
not
a
to buckle
solution,
under
right?
pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, just to adding this point that not to add the pressure. Alok, stakeholder is very important for us, right? I everybody know that without stakeholder we can't survive. Even though we are doing this podcast today, but our stakeholder are sitting in the other room and waiting for us to be come out and then say, okay, चलो घूमने चलते हैं, ठीक है? So when you go for the workshops, you go for the kind of a consulting, there's a lot of time that there's a conflict between the stakeholders. Someone say yes, I'm okay, someone say no, I'm not okay, someone say no, 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 we can do, we should not do, kind of thing. So what you think, your experience says that how to manage that practical thing? Because either you're a developer, either you're a consultant, mainly consultant has this major problem. And I want to be hear from you that what you approach, your approach in that particular area, that how to handle these conditions.
Yes, there are multiple ways to handle it. The way I currently do is, for example, when customers are not very clear about what are they going to see in the system, right? They are not very. So I use the technique of prototyping, or I
Okay.
use that lucid chart and kind of build those boxes and show them this is how it will look like. So because sometimes what happens is when you are not able to visualize things, you are not able to build, you're not able to come to a common decision, right? And this
Correct.
is where you can show them also, see, this is why it is not looking right, or this is why. And maybe see, for example, generally, for example, you are a partner when you're implementing it, and the customers are, they're sitting together at one side, then you don't have much to say, to be honest. I mean, you can just ask the main stakeholders, right, to have a call with them and say that this is what we can propose. Can you talk to them at your level internally once, and then uh, finalize what is important. So as I said, it is not a very one-way street where you have always clear-cut ways of handling it. As I say, if they're not able to visualize things, you can do the prototyping part. You can talk to the main people and ask. And as I said one more time earlier in the past, that if somebody is showing some resistance, right, try to talk to that person one to one and
In person, right? And one to one, right?
understand what are the pain points, why are they not willing to do that. So this is where you can build a repo, and I have been in some situations multiple times. This is exactly what I do. I kind of build those different conversations. I kind of talk to them in silos. Sometimes I'm not saying working in silos helps every time, but especially in case of conflicts, it is difficult to manage conflicts when you are in a wider group,
In
right?
a
So in that case,
wider
you can
picture,
always
right?
pick out those points. Okay, this is where the conflict is, because this is where your understanding of the PPC also has to be that out of these 10 points, conflict is only on 1 or 2 points, right? May not be on
Yes.
all 10 points. So sometimes the discussion goes so long that you kind of feel that everything is going out of control, right? Which is not
Correct. Correct.
the right thing. So you kind of
Correct.
have to pick up the right things, that okay, 8 are working fine, only 2 have problems. So let's try to solve those 2 things. This is how I look
Okay.
at it currently.
Good. 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 Okay. Now I'll put a question, and it can be maybe last question for both of you. Generally, I got a, as I do the trainings as well, so I got a feedback, or I got a question from the people that, Atul, I want to be work, or I want to build my career as a BA or the BPC. There are two things. One, I am a fresher, I want to be start my career as a BA and BPC. Second, I am experience holder, and I want to become a BA BPC. So what I have to be take care, what I have to be think, what I have to be put this point, so that yes, I can become a BA or BPC. Go ahead, Alok, then I'll come to this question to Rohan as well.
I think, yeah, you gave 2 scenarios. One is the fresher, and the second is experienced guy. So experienced guy, if
Right.
he experienced in ServiceNow already and maybe a developer, then he might know the platform already, right? So he does not need to worry about that. But generally, what happens is BAs or BPCs, they have to think in a broader perspective, because they have to join the dots together. Now, for example, if
Right.
I give stories to developer, I'll give him 5 stories or 10 stories, right? He'll work on those stories very nicely. But what happens generally is where you see things in an interrelationship. For example, how it is impacting this part, how it is impacting that part. And because BA has a bigger view in terms of, because they're talking to the customer every single day, and they are writing all the stories also for all the developers, all the
Right.
partners. They have that understanding of doing the impact analysis. But having said that, for a fresher, it is important to learn platforms. So I think you always have this service or administration training there, right? And then second,
Right.
learn something about what are basic requirements of BA. For example, writing stories, right? Writing
Right.
clear documents. So how to write a story is important. How to create a cross-functional diagram and as is versus to be comparison is important. So they need to understand that part. So if they, and I said, you always have now create to support you, right? So for example,
Right.
you have all the artifacts there, right? Starter stories, how to write stories, you have it there. You have the starter stories
So,
there.
so it means if I want to become a process consultant or the BA BPC, two things are important for me. Number one, I must have a process knowledge. Number two, I must have at least that basic knowledge of the platform so that I can understand those words which has been written in the process.
Then not only basics. This is where I'll little bit disagree to you, with you. Rahul, oh, sorry, Atul. Because what
Atul.
happened is, if you remember, right? So Rohan mentioned a point. Devil lies in the details. Now, what happens is, this is exactly what happened with me also in the past. Sometime when I said, okay, so somebody told me, no, go. I want to configure an approval, and I said, okay, I wrote a story. Okay, configure the approval, and on this stage, for example, right?
Right.
Then people ask me a question: are they sequential approvals? Are they parallel approvals? What happens
Mm-hmm.
if the approval gets rejected? Should I shoot it back? So all these questions, have to be thought through, and this comes to
Yes.
experience. And as I said, when you go to low level details, you start peeling the layers of the onion. This is where you actually understand
Mm.
what to ask, right? Because initially you think, oh, only form field, I'll change it. It is very easy, but it is not that
Right.
easy because there are a lot of impacts because of that only,
Correct.
right?
Correct, 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 correct. Okay, Rohan, what your thoughts? And we have two questions as well in the comment section. We'll pick up that. What your thoughts, Rohan? That how, as a fresher, I'll come to your point only for the fresher part. As a fresher, I can become a B or the BPC. What I should learn? What should skill I should build so that I can do that work?
Yeah. So again, drawing the line between BA BPC, the
Yes.
onus of BPC is far larger than a BA, right? So
Hmm.
that I have already covered in the beginning. So
Right.
when we say that you want to be a service now business analyst as a
Hmm.
fresher, you're gonna start with one exercise which I did 2 years back was
Hmm.
mapping service now solutions with problems. So whatever
Okay.
service now offers, you simply map it to whatever problems are solved with it. Now Create is
Okay.
a great platform to learn that. You can go to YouTube
Yes.
and figure out. So ITSM, what problem it solves, ITBM, what exact problem it solves. You can
Hmm.
just ballpark it, just have it in your mind so that
Okay.
you are aware that whenever a process is being talked about, you know
Hmm.
exactly which service now suit does it
Should
belong
be
to.
this.
So
Okay.
that as a fresher you can start with this. Then CSA is a must do. As Alok sir also mentioned, it's
Hmm.
CSA is a bare minimum, right? Because you are
True.
you are a service now BA, you are a service now BPC, so you have to talk the service now lingo. You cannot do without that, and then you catch
Okay.
up as you go on. And please try to be in as many call as possible. Does not
Hmm.
matter if it is an early call,
Okay.
advisory level call, SOW level call. You go
Okay.
in the call, sit, listen. That will help you as a
Okay.
fresher to really get into
So
BABPC.
in short, we can say definitely Nowcred is one of the platforms. Second, try participating in the technical discussion so that you can start understanding the platform in the same manner or in the side by side, so that when actual work come to you, you know that what was discussed in the previously. Good. So I
And
have two questions.
how
Good.
that process works in service. So for example, if you know incident management process, right?
Yes.
So you must know how incident management process works in service now out of the box, right? And then
Correct.
the possibilities which it could open it up to. Yeah.
True on that particular part, Alok, definitely. Okay, I have two questions here put by Piyush. What is the discover value section and discover as stated by Jerry? Any
I
thought
think
on that part,
we talked
Alok?
about it some time back, right? Discover value
Yep.
part. I think we said so. There are several ways to discover value, and then see, as is always you have to understand because as a BA BPC, that is the first thing you have to understand what is happening today. And when you see that, okay, once I achieve nirvana state, which means
Hmm.
when I achieve the final implementation of the product, this is how it will look like, right? So nirvana state is a very
Right.
common term which is used in corporate world, right? Especially
Right.
when you're doing roadmap kind of thing, that okay, this is where we want to reach eventually, right? So,
Right.
and
Right.
at that time, you should know that what, as I said, value could be in user experience, value could be in in the
Optimization, process
functionality,
optimization, consolidation.
compliance.
Right.
Right? So there are multiple things where you can discover value. It's all about
Okay.
wearing different heads. Think about all the personas. Now, this is where it becomes very easy. If you're not able
Hmm.
to finalize the value, then think about different personas. Point number one. Point number two, just think if it was not there, what would have been the situation?
Hmm.
It will be very easy for
True.
you to deliver value in that case or derive value, right? Okay, because if it's just
Right.
imagine it is not there, now what will happen? This is where
True.
it is important.
Okay. And this ServiceNow platform provide these, like Nowcred provide these options to be
There are a
calculate that particular part.
lot of options.
Okay.
I think
Good.
customer success now create these are very not so frequently used things, but believe me, these are very important and they are really helpful.
And I'm agree with you that these are the kind of underrated stuff,
Underrated.
which but it is a lot of gyan in itself that you will feel happy if you start using these particular things. Good.
Especially process guide, right? Because I've seen people using
Yes.
starter stories, I've seen people using workshop decks, but I've not seen people using process guides so much. But process guides,
Right.
especially for people like us who are BA and BPs, are really important because they give
True.
insight overall picture of the process.
Right. And the biggest benefit is that is a standard. Means it is provided by ServiceNow and created by ServiceNow only. So there's a no deviation that what they are selling and what they're writing it here. Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll put the last question now. Sheikh Wasim, and maybe I can hear from you, Arohan, first. Can someone with a strong ITSM knowledge on the other tools can grow as a BA BPC in ServiceNow? What do you think?
110%. Right.
And
So
to do this migration, is the same keys are applicable, process knowledge, deep dive in the service now, or you think that something else also can benefit it here?
I think just to add here, you have to figure out where do you stand and where do you want to go, right? It's not
Mhm.
it's not direct to direct comparison. Let's say somebody is starting out, it's recommended to go through CSA at early stage. But let's say
Right.
you, I have seen a lot of people move from BMC remedy to service now
Service now,
and
right.
gel just well, like even exceptionally
Yes.
well, right? So you have to understand what are your needs. Let's say you just want to be
Hmm.
be a BPC and you have a ton of knowledge from ITIL perspective, from the process perspective, then it would be a bad suggestion from my end to ask you to do CSA tomorrow, right? So that you can
Hmm.
transition. So you have to figure
Right.
out where do you stand, where do you want to go, what are the right priorities, right? So if the market does not demand CSA and you are very fluent with your process understanding, very fluent about your consulting approach, then
Right.
you're most welcome, and then you can do the CSA on weekends, right?
To
Right.
be
Right.
very honest, I did my CSA after 6 years with the organization. So yeah, I didn't feel the
Says
need of it because process knowledge was there. I was like the expert. I was doing it
right.
right there and every time. So yeah, but it is important because whoever is fresher, whoever is new to the platform, for them it is always important to go through the basics and understand the platform. So CSA might
Yes.
help. Yeah, but somebody
Right.
who's seasoned enough may not need it immediately.
True. Hope Sheikh, you got the answer of this point. If you still have any question, you can reach out to Alok and Rohan on the LinkedIn as well. I put their LinkedIn connection details in the chat window. You can reach out to them. Okay, we already 6 minutes over from our discussion. Any last question if anybody has, or any last thought from Alok from you, and then we'll go to Rohan.
I mean, just thank you very much for this conversation. It was very interesting to talk to like-minded people, especially all three of yours are in BA BPC domain, so it's always interesting to know different perspectives. Right. At the
Okay.
same time, I think I would just suggest everybody use Now Create as much as possible, especially when you're in
True.
this role. It is really really helpful, guys. If you've not done it so far, please do that. And customer mindset is second important thing, which I would always focus on. You have to put yourself into the customer, understand their problem statements, and then think about service later on. So if you
Right.
build that trust with customer, it will always be a easy journey in that case.
True. What do you want to say, Rohan here? The last thoughts.
They definitely agree with what Alok sir just said, right? So first, the problem, stay with the problem as much as you can. Stay with the user or the customer as much as you can. Then go to ServiceNow. Don't bring
Hmm.
ServiceNow to the forefront because it's not
Yes.
your primary responsibility as a BA BPC to implement it. You are not in the solution side at any point in time. You are
And
dealing with the problem. Work with the problem as much as you
Right.
can. Right.
I have to
Well
That's
add
all.
one more thing there, right? So for example, any customer, they do not implement service now for the sake of service now. They are
true.
implementing it to solve their business problem, right? So this is very
With right.
important thing to understand. So you as a partner might be going for service. For them, it is the problem statements that solved, not service now or something like solved, right? So that is important to understand, keep in mind.
True. No, that's very much true. And I remember only one saying in English: only the bearer know where the shoe pinches. So by the time you will not put your feet in that shoe, you will not know that where it pinches. And that is what I learn also with this experience. Okay, my last question to both of you. Let me start with Alo. How you are feeling now? Excited, happy,
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good because
or
sharing
or
knowledge
or
is always.
and or now you are thinking, Atul, let's go for another session as well.
I
Maza
can
aa
see
gaya.
because no, I'll tell you, it was interesting definitely, and as I said, so when you start peeling the layers of the onion, right? You deep dive into
Yes,
things. So even we can have a 1 hour session how to write a story because that in itself is a
true,
very big topic, right? So
true.
every single topic, how to write a workshop talk, how to do everything, whatever you're doing, going to do
Right.
everything requires an hour session minimum. But again, I mean, everybody the time limit, everybody has a different
True.
perspective. So
So Rohan, what do you think? Feeling excited, nervous, okay, maza
I
aa
think
gaya?
I'm my happy state now. Talking to like-minded people and talking about problem solving, right? So
Yes.
we I hardly believe we got into service now much, and that's what is expected of a BPC
Exactly
in the
right,
first
right.
call.
Exactly.
Right?
Like
Exactly.
it's
So
it's a tool, not a service, no, maybe some other tool, but the work which you're doing is the same for everybody. At the same, in every area it will be same only problem statement. And coming back to that particular part, so now with this, let's take 10-20 second pause. Let's say thanks to the God who give us the power, give us the strength, give us the words. So what we want to be articulate, what we want to be share with everybody, we are able to share that particular part. And then finally we formally close this session as well. Okay. Okay, so once again, thank you so much, Alok and Rohan, for coming on this podcast. I know that we had a discussion earlier, and you are not feeling good or little nervous. कैसे होगा तो बात करनी है पहले एक session demo करके देखते हैं. But it's just to the audience, it is completely unscripted. Nothing has been scripted earlier that what question I'm going to be asked, so nothing to be on that particular part. And thank you so much, the audience who joined with us in this live session. Understand we are able to hope we are able to clarify your questions as well. If still any question, reach out to me, reach out to Alok or the Rohan on the LinkedIn or the connections, and then we can work together on that particular part. And with this, I would like to be say thanks once again, and I'll come back again with some new session after the 2 weeks. Till then, take care and bye bye, guys. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.